Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Want to garden in a very small space? It's called square foot gardening, and today we're going to learn how to do it. Also, does your crepe myrtle have bark scale? We'll show you one way to take care of it. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Tonya Ashworth. Tonya is our local garden expert, and Mr. D will be joining us later. All right, Tonya, it's good to have you here at the Family Plot Garden.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Oh, no problem. We're going to talk about square foot gardening. So the first question is this: what is square foot gardening?
Well, it's my very favorite method of growing vegetables in my own backyard.
Okay.
And it was popularized by books from Mel Bartholomew. The idea behind square foot gardening is it is a raised bed system.
Okay.
The basic raised bed size is 4 foot by 4 foot. And a square foot garden, a true square foot garden, always has a grid laid on top of the 4 by 4 foot square bed.
Okay.
That divides it into square feet. So you'll have 16 square feet sections in a square foot garden bed. Okay. And you can make those grids out of like twine and nails or little pieces of wood strips that you lay on
Okay, yeah, that's going to be my next question. Okay, well, what are the benefits, though, of square foot gardening?
Okay, well, here's the reasons why I do it in my yard. The first one is it doesn't take up a whole lot of space.
Good.
You can grow a lot in a very small backyard. You don't have to own a tiller or anything like that. The only thing I've ever used in my square foot beds are my hand trowel.
Okay.
Very, very little weed pressure, almost no weeds. I rarely ever have to pull a weed. You use less water because it's a smaller space that you have to water. And I have dogs in my backyard, so if I had a great big garden, I would have to fence out around the whole thing to keep my dogs out, but it's very, very simple to fence around to keep dogs or other critters out of your square foot beds.
Good point. No weeds.
Very, very little.
No weeds?
Yes,
How about
yes.
that? Okay. Now, how do we get started with our square foot garden?
Okay, well, the first thing that you have to do is build your bed, or now you can even buy kits to build your square foot bed. And you want them to be at least 6 inches deep. Mine are a little bit deeper than that in my backyard, but 6 inches is really all that you need.
Okay.
And then you would first locate that in an area that gets at least 6 hours of sunshine a day. So full sun is best.
It's best, okay.
And you know, if you don't have a lot of full sun areas in your yard, if it's a concrete patio, you can put this thing right on top of concrete. So it's great for small spaces.
Okay.
And then you fill it with whatever you're going to put in your raised bed. I think in his books, Mel Bartholomew has his own mix that he's formulated. That's like a third vermiculite, a third peat moss, and a third compost. But you don't have to put that if that's not what you have on hand. If you've got some good compost or whatever, you can fill that up. So we're going to modify this barrel to show you an example of how to do a square foot garden. So we're going to add a little bit of compost to our barrel. And
I think I can handle that, Tonya.
Thank you.
All right, and you just tell me how much and when.
Okay. And in my own yard, I usually will in the spring have to top dress with compost to get it back up to the top of my container.
Yeah, this is good stuff here.
All right, so another thing about square foot gardening is inside of these grids, you're going to plant your plants very close together.
Okay.
And you don't plant in rows with a square foot garden. So you'll usually see in planting guidelines, plant your things so many inches apart and then so many inches between rows.
Okay.
But we just ignore the row part and you put them on centers. And so this allows you to be able to plant a lot of things in a small space. Like in a square foot, in one square in your raised bed, you can plant 16 carrots.
Really?
Or you can plant 1 tomato per square. So that gives you 16 tomatoes in one 4 by 4 bed, which is highly intensive planting. Or you can do 1 pepper or 1 eggplant per square. You can also do 4 bush beans per square, or you can do 9 sweet peas per square. So I know that sounds like a lot, but I've tried it in my own and it actually works. In my one little 1 foot by 1 foot square, I planted 9 sugar sweet peas, And when they grow up, they kind of support each other as they grow,
okay.
and you don't even hardly need a support system, and there's no weeds because they're out competing all the weeds.
Right, gotcha.
So those are some of the basics. And if you want to do this in your yard and you're not sure like how many plants to put per square, there's some good resources online. You can go to squarefootgardening.com and watch short video clips on how to set this thing up. And you can also, if you're on Pinterest, you can follow the Square Foot Gardening Foundation, and they have charts of samples for how many plants to put in each square. So that's a great resource if you're on Pinterest.
On Pinterest, okay.
So I brought some things with me to show. You could do 1 tomato plant per square. This is Pink Girl.
Pink Girl.
Or 1 pepper. You could put that. And then I like to plant from seed sometimes. You could do 1 okra per square in your garden, or 16 carrot seeds per square. You could plant a whole bunch of carrots. Also, it's good to plant carrots in containers because the soil is usually not as compact. They do better. They're a root vegetable. Also, eggplant, I'm going to try from seed this year. And this is a container variety for a 12-inch pot, so this would be perfect for my space-intensive square foot beds. So I'm just going to go ahead and plant this tomato plant in there. And we probably have, this is probably a little bit more than 1 square would be in your square foot bed. So I'm going to put it kind of towards the back, and then I'm going to put a parsley in there too. Because I think we've got room.
It's a good root system on that too.
Nice fluffy dirt.
All right, that's good. Now, how successful are you with the seeds though, when you're planting your seeds at home in your own?
Well, I have 3 of the 4x4 raised beds. One of them I use strictly as an herb bed. So I have a lot of success with planting things like basil and parsley and dill from seed. I've already got basil and dill seeds sprouted up in my own yard, in my own square foot bed. And also I've had a lot of success with carrots especially. And lettuce. Lettuce is a great spring crop that you can do. You just get a nice seed bed and sprinkle out your lettuce seeds. It's fantastic for this type of scheme. And then let's see, what else have I planted from seed? My peas, I plant peas from seed. So yeah, you can definitely save money that way. And that's pretty much all there is to it.
And I guess it's easy to harvest too, right? You said there's no weeding. You know,
no weeding.
Harvesting is going to be easy. What about if you had like pest problems? It'd be easy to come in here and just take those off, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've mostly just had aphids that you can easily remove if you catch them in time. The pest problems, very few, and my favorite part is no weeds. And it's easier on your back too. I mean, it's easier on your back than doing it in the ground.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
And they're easy, the beds are easy to build. My husband built mine for me, but I'll tell people that he was outside building my bed and I was inside cooking dinner, and he got finished first.
Oh, Daniel's good. He's good.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Pretty good. One last question. Any disease problems, you know, because, I mean, they're planted fairly close together.
Yes. Well, you know, for my tomatoes, I spray preventative fungicide. Chlorothalonil is my favorite. Yeah.
And that works pretty good? No other problems?
No.
All right. Well, Tonya, we appreciate the demonstration. We can't wait to see what it looks like, you know, throughout the summer.
Yes.
How about that? Thank you much.
Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna take a look at this watermelon. As you can see, the bottom of it has blossom end rot. And what that pretty much means is that calcium is not moving throughout this plant. And this is also an indicator of a calcium deficiency. So this is the importance of doing a soil test. You do a soil test, you find out how much calcium is in the soil. If you need to add calcium, please do that. But the major problem with this is you need more moisture consistency. You need a more consistent watering regime, which is why it's always good to mulch, because that mulch helps regulate soil moisture. So either you're giving it too much water or you're not giving it enough water. So add mulch, and that would help with your moisture control. You're not going to be able to correct the problem that you have here now, but you will be able to save those other watermelons. So again, this is blossom end rot, moisture control, and calcium is not moving throughout the plant like it should. Well, here at WKNO, we have a problem with our crepe myrtles. Looks like we have the crepe myrtle bark scale.
That's right. Looks like we got a fungus among us. That's bad.
So how do you think the scales got here, Mr. D?
You know, I don't know. These were first identified in Texas. Is that right? In the
That's
United
right.
States. So they've got to be. There's got to be some windborne activity. I know the males, we know, have wings and can fly, but the females are sessile. They can't move, so they couldn't have come in on their own. I think we probably helped them a little bit. Don't you
I think we helped them too, and I think birds may have also brought them over too. What do you think about that?
Birds.
Perhaps.
But transporting plants around, you know, we probably inadvertently move more critters and
sure.
bad things than we really mean to.
Right.
And but that would make sense.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, there's some heavy infestations here in Shelby County. I mean, I've gotten calls from, you know, Germantown, Bartlett, Midtown, Collierville, you know, so they're pretty much all over the place now.
In 1 year, I mean, it's a little over a year ago when you first discovered them in this area.
Right. You know, Dr. Hale and Dr. Wyndham came down last year there in Germantown and saw a couple of cases, but this year, for some reason, it's just exploded, you know, just multiplied. So they're pretty much all around the area now.
I wonder how closely they are related to their Asian counterpart, and they're common over in across the ocean. And I wonder how close this race is that we have here is to the Asian.
Oh, that's a good question.
Variety. I don't know.
I don't know. But right now, we just know they're pretty much specific to the crepe myrtles.
Right.
You know, which is a mainstay here, you know, pretty much in the South. You know, everybody grows crepe myrtle, so we'll see what happens.
And it's been a worry-free plant, a plant that we didn't have any
Pest-free.
pest
So this is how we're to treat the crepe myrtle bark scales. This is what we've been telling the homeowner to use.
This is what, a metacloprid?
It is. It's the active ingredient. It sure is. And of course, you know, our crepe myrtle is multi-trunk. So you have to make sure that you read and follow the label. We definitely want people to do that. And what we're going to do is we're going to measure the distance in inches around each tree trunk at about 4.5 feet, okay? We're going to add together, and then we're going to multiply by 0.75, and that's going to give us the ounces that we add to a gallon of water.
Okay. That's a lot more specific than, I don't guess that's that much more specific than a lot of pesticides, but it's kind of a different way of figuring out how much to apply usually.
But yeah, make sure that you read and follow the label on that, okay?
That's the law.
All right, let's do that. All right, Mr. D, so we're gonna measure 4.5 feet up.
Diameter, breast height.
All right, and then at that level, we're gonna measure in diameter the individual trunks,
all
okay?
of these. It looks like we're gonna have, what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11? 11 measurements.
Okay. All right, let's start with the first one. And you're recording this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, see, that will be 5.
Okay.
Okay, this is gonna be a little bigger. Right here, and look at all the scales on here though, my gosh.
Man, it's covered up in the
It's
city
covered up pretty
mold.
good. All right. Yeah, that's gonna be 5.5.
Okay.
You want to catch that?
That right there.
Come up here, bring it through right there. 6.
Getting bigger.
Yeah, getting pretty big. This one's a small one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. It's 4.
Okay. Looks like we're averaging around 5.
Yeah, it looks so. You want to see if you can get those on that side?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Trade.
4 right there.
Uh, 4.75.
Okay.
4 3/4. Looks like about 3.5.
3.5.
5.
Okay.
6.
6. It's a big one.
Mm-hmm. It's like 3.5.
Okay.
Looks like 4 3/4, 4.75.
Okay.
And that's 3.75. Is that it?
All right, so that's gonna be it.
Okay.
So
Let's figure now. Calculate.
Yeah, we gotta do math.
Oh man.
All right, Mr. D, so we have all of the measurements. So what we have?
We do. It came up to 51.75 total inches, and we divide that or multiply that times 0.75.
Okay.
And we came out with 38.8. So we need 38.8 ounces of the product in a gallon of water.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's go
That's
for
a big plant.
it. It is. Go for it. And we always want people to be safe.
The way we do, follow directions.
Follow the label.
It's the law.
Wear your gloves.
Yeah, put your rubber gloves on.
Okay. All right. Let's shake it up real good here.
Yeah.
As you see, it's a pretty green color.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There you go. Sure is.
Yeah, look at that. This is also a fertilizer. It's a 2-1-to-1 fertilizer in here.
Okay, good deal.
All right, so what's that, 38.8 ounces?
38.8.
Okay. We're gonna put that there. Put this into our gallon of water here.
That's turning green too.
Yeah, look at that green color, I tell you.
Okay,
Think that's pretty good?
I'll do the trick. Need to stir it up a bit.
Yeah, stir it up there. Make sure we get it in a solution. Yeah.
What, do you just put it under the drip line pretty much, or all
But
up?
you know, the label says get it as close,
As close to the trunk
to
as
the
you
trunk
can?
as you possibly
Okay.
can.
Okay,
Again, we're following the label.
that's right.
Close to the trunk as you possibly can.
Okay. You got the gloves on.
And we're gonna get this. All right, Mr. D. We're gonna go ahead and pour as close to the trunk as we possibly can here.
Okay.
Okay. And I'll just try to go around here. Yeah.
It'd be nice if they'd start falling off right now.
No, it would be.
I don't think it works that way, do you?
I don't think it works that fast.
Yeah.
And it will tell you on the label that, you know, according to the size of the tree, it may take, you know, a couple of months,
Right.
you know, for it to actually take effect. Okay. And there you have it. You know, the
Okay.
roots will take it up systemically, and then we'll wait a couple of months or so, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, to be on the safe side, we better treat the rest of these crepe myrtles here, don't you think?
I think so.
If you have shrubs next to your flower beds and you notice that the shrubs are hanging over the flower bed, you want to cut some of those branches off, because this is only going to shade the plants in that bed, and you don't want the shrub to take the sun away from the plants that you're going to plant in the bed. And when you do cut a shrub away, you got to find the end of where it's coming out, either from the ground or from another shoot. And you cut it at that point. This one here. Removing these two branches will not hurt the plant, and it will keep the sun on the flowers in the bed and not shade them with these two branches.
All right, Tonya, here's our Q&A session. You ready?
Yes.
All right, we have some good questions here.
Uh-huh.
All right, so here's our first viewer email. Please help me get rid of this hump in my yard. I pulled up an azalea and now I have a hump. I want grass to grow back over it smoothly with the rest of the yard. What should I do? Thank you. And this is from Mona right here in Memphis. So help, she has a hump in her yard.
Well, it's time to get out the shovel, unfortunately, and pull back that grass and try to level it out as best you can.
I think that's, shovel is one option. Two, I thought a good rake would be another option. The third thing, maybe pull out a tiller, you think?
Yeah.
And, just kind of, till it in pretty good and then smooth it out, with the rake, and I think that may help.
Yes.
But a hump after pulling up an azalea though.
Yeah, usually you have a sunk in place, but yeah.
Okay. So shovel, good rake, till it up, smooth it over. You got a lot to work to do, Ms. Mona.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for the question. Here's our next viewer email. What is the definition of the different kinds of soils purchased by the bag, specifically garden soil, potting soil, topsoil, raised bed soil? All of these have the same components, so how do they differ? Also, none of these have clay as a component. Why not? You would think true soil would contain clay, and this is from Chuck. So we're talking about the old soils in bags that you get from the big box store. So Tonya, let's look at these individually for a second. Garden soil, what's in garden soil, do you think?
Well, garden soil is going to be a lot of wood products mixed in, not very much peat and not as much organic matter as like a potting soil would be. Garden soil is usually for just to put out into the landscape and not in a container, and you can use garden soil in a raised bed. Okay,
so you can't use it in a raised bed. All right, potting soil?
Potting soil is going to be fluffier and lighter, less compaction, good drainage for your containers. Usually it'll have a lot of peat moss in there and some vermiculite and nice loose material. As far as your topsoil, it usually comes from the top 12 inches of the earth's surface, and there's not going to be a lot of organic matter or anything in there. It's usually the least expensive of all those, the cheapest stuff to use. You can use that. You can even mix compost in with that to make it a little bit better. And as far as what was the other one? The raised bed. Okay, that's going to be kind of like between potting soil and garden soil. So maybe not quite as good for containers, but you don't have to buy raised bed soil, for your raised bed gardens. You can use the cheaper garden soil, but it's going to be a little bit lighter and fluffier and maybe less wood product than just plain garden soil. Okay.
Do you think you get the nutrient requirements needed for plant growth if you use like garden soil or
Probably not. You might want to wait and do a soil test after a little while, and you may have to add some things. And I would say if you're just dumping out a bag of garden soil, it wouldn't hurt to mix in some compost if you've got it. Okay. And then was the other one, why is there not clay?
Yeah, why is there not clay in it?
Well, in soils class, they teach you the three components of soil is sand, silt, and clay. So why don't they have clay in the soil? Well, clay is heavier, it's finer, and it's doesn't drain very well. Yes. So that's probably why they don't put clay in there.
Right, it's gonna hold a lot of moisture. Right. Yeah, just take the clay in your backyard, or front yard for that matter. But yeah, you're definitely right about those, and yeah, you see these all the time at the big box stores, of course, in the bags. But yeah, you don't want a lot of clay in that. Right. And I was thinking too, for the raised bed soil, I would think some of that would contain maybe some organic material when you think, probably has a little sand in it, a little organic material. Maybe it holds nutrients a little better than some of the rest. The topsoil I use at home, I pretty much use that to fill in holes. Yeah. If I have little divots or something in the yard or whatever, I just grab the topsoil and put it in there. Just seems to fit that purpose pretty well. All right, so there you have it, Chuck. There are your different kinds of soils. All right, thanks for that question. All right, here's our next viewer email. My trees are dying from the top down. The centers are hollow and filled with ants. Why is this? Is there anything to kill the ants on a healthy tree? And this is from Richard in Greenville. So we talked a little bit about this earlier. Be good to have a picture so we can see what's wrong with the tree. But anytime that I see or think about ants being in trees, there's a couple of things that come to mind. It's usually aphids around or soft scales. And of course, we know aphids and soft scales produce honeydew, which the ants are attracted to. So you may have aphids or soft scales. And the second thing is this. So the tree is already, hollow, which means it's decaying. The ants are probably looking for an opportunity to nest.
Yeah, the ants are just a symptom. They're not really the problem.
No, they're not going to cause a huge problem. So I wouldn't personally worry about killing the ants.
Right, no. If you have the soft scale or something, treat that, and then the ants should leave. Right.
But since those centers are hollow, Mr. Richard, I would get a certified arborist to come out there and take a look at that.
If they're large, yes.
Right, because that might be a hazard, potentially. So I wouldn't worry so much about the ants. I would worry about the hazard. Right. The tree. All right, so there you go, Mr. Richard. Thanks for the question. All right, here's our next via email. We had 2 big, beautiful burgundy mums last fall. I trimmed them back this past winter when they were dormant. One has come back, but the other appears to only have the front of the plant. Literally, it's like the whole back half is gone. Why did half my mom plant die over the winter? And this is from Bethany. So why do you think the plant died, Tonya?
Probably too wet, not enough drainage, and the roots rotted in that area, and maybe a fungal thing set up. In general, when you cut back your mums, though, you want to leave about 6 inches from the ground. You leave a little bit of that vegetation. You don't want to cut them back too terribly late, because then you don't want to risk the frost damage. So those are some tips, but probably poor drainage.
Poor drainage is, yeah. Definitely first thing that came to my mind. Our winters, of course, when it's wet, right? So I would always think about rotten roots, you know, especially for those mums sitting there. And a lot of the mums, you think about it, that you get from the big box stores and, you know, some of your nurseries are annuals.
You can get some garden mums that'll come back, but most of them are annuals.
Yeah, most of them are annuals. Tonya, it was fun. We're out of time.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplot@wkno.org, and the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for joining us. If you want to get more information about growing a square foot garden or using soil drenches to control scale, go to familyplotgarden.com. We have information on this and hundreds of other topics. I'm Chris Cooper. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.